I need to get something off my chest. This is a story about betrayal, heartbreak, and the painful process of healing. I've been a silent lurker here for years, but today I feel compelled to share my story. My name is Mark, and I'm a medical student. This is the story of how I discovered my girlfriend of nearly 6 years, Emily, was cheating on me during what was supposed to be a much-needed spring break cruise. It all started on the last day of the cruise. Emily and I had been looking forward to this trip for months. Medical school is grueling, and we both needed a break. Or at least, I thought we both did. The first few days were amazing. We explored the ship, indulged in the buffets, and even danced under the stars. It felt like a dream. But dreams can turn into nightmares. On the last night, Emily went to the ship's spa for a massage. I decided to stay in our cabin to pack our things and get ready for the trip back home. As I was folding clothes and organizing our stuff, Emily's phone buzzed on the nightstand. I usually never go through her phone VDJ. I believed in trust and respect in a relationship VDJ, but something felt off. You know that gut feeling that something is just wrong? That was gnawing at me. I picked up her phone and saw a notification for a message from someone named Derek. My heart skipped a beat. Who was Derek? Curiosity got the better of me, and I unlocked her phone. What I found shattered my world. There were videos. Explicit videos of Emily with another man. Not just one, but several. Spanning the last 6 months. My hands trembled as I watched them. Disbelief and anger swirling inside me. How could she do this to me? To us? We had been together for almost 6 years, planning a future together. I felt sick to my stomach. When Emily returned from the spa, she saw the look on my face and immediately knew. She dropped her spa bag and rushed over, begging for forgiveness. She claimed it was a mistake, a lapse in judgment, and that she still loved me. But I couldn't hear her over the sound of my heart breaking. I told her it was over. I couldn't stay with someone who betrayed me like this. She sobbed and pleaded, but my mind was made up. I had to leave. But leaving wasn't as easy as it sounded. Emily had been living at my mother's house while I studied for medical school. We had intertwined our lives so deeply that untangling them felt impossible. The cruise ended, and we flew back home in awkward silence. I couldn't even look at her. Every glance in her direction felt like a dagger to my heart. When we got back to my mom's house, Emily tried to continue as if nothing had happened. She cooked dinner, cleaned the house, and even tried to initiate intimacy. But I was done. My trust in her was shattered, and there was no going back. As the days went by, Emily's behavior became erratic. One moment, she was apologetic and remorseful. The next, she was angry and defensive. She tried to blame me, saying I was too focused on my studies and neglected her needs. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had sacrificed so much to support her and our relationship. I worked part-time jobs, took out loans, and juggled my demanding medical school schedule, all while trying to be there for her. I started to see a therapist to help me process the betrayal and my emotions. The therapist helped me understand that Emily's infidelity wasn't my fault. It was a reflection of her issues, not mine. But that didn't make it hurt any less. I still loved her. Or at least the person I thought she was. Coming to terms with the fact that the Emily I loved never truly existed was devastating. One evening, as I was preparing for an exam, Emily walked into my room with tears streaming down her face. She handed me her phone and said, "Mark, please look at this." Reluctantly, I took the phone and saw messages between her and the man from the videos. He was a co-worker, and their affair had been going on for 6 months. They had met at work, started flirting, and it quickly escalated into a full-blown affair. I couldn't take it anymore. I told Emily she needed to move out. My mother, who had been unaware of the full extent of the situation, was shocked when I explained everything. She supported my decision and helped Emily pack her things. It was a painful process, watching someone I had loved and trusted leave our home, knowing she had betrayed me in the worst way possible. Emily left, and I was alone. The house felt empty without her, but it also felt lighter. I could breathe again. I focused on my studies, threw myself into my work, and tried to rebuild my life. But the scars of her betrayal lingered. One day, while cleaning out the room we had shared, I found more evidence of Emily's deceit. She had kept a journal, detailing her affairs and her feelings. Reading it was like pouring salt into an open wound. She had written about her excitement, the thrill of the affair, and her justifications for cheating on me. She blamed me for being too busy, too focused on my studies, and not giving her enough attention. It was infuriating. I had done everything I could to support her, to build a life together, and this was how she repaid me. The betrayal cut deep, but it also gave me the closure I needed. I realized that no matter what I had done, it would never have been enough for her. She was broken, and nothing I could do would fix that. I decided to move forward with my life. I focused on my studies, my future, and my healing. I cut all ties with Emily and blocked her on all social media. I couldn't afford to have her in my life, constantly reminding me of the pain and betrayal. Months passed, and I slowly started to heal. I began to rediscover myself, my passions, and my dreams. I made new friends, joined study groups, and even started dating again. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to move forward. Looking back, I realized that Emily's betrayal, as painful as it was, taught me valuable lessons. I learned the importance of self-worth, trust, and boundaries. I learned that I deserved someone who would love and respect me, not someone who would betray me at the first opportunity. Now, as I prepare for my first board exams, I feel stronger and more focused than ever. The pain of Emily's betrayal is still there, but it no longer defines me. I've grown from the experience, and I know that I'm capable of overcoming anything life throws my way. I wish I could say that everything got easier after Emily left, but that would be a lie. The days following our breakup were some of the hardest of my life. The initial shock and anger gave way to a deep, gnawing sadness that seemed to consume every part of me. I was going through the motions, attending classes, studying for exams, but inside, I felt hollow. One of the hardest parts was dealing with the memories. Everywhere I looked in the house, I saw reminders of Emily. The spot on the couch where we used to cuddle and watch movies, the kitchen where we cooked meals together, even the garden where she had planted flowers, VDJ, all of it was tainted by her betrayal. I found myself sinking into a deep depression, struggling to find any joy in the things I used to love. I remember one particularly bad day. It was a Saturday, and I had no classes or shifts at the hospital. I had planned to use the day to catch up on some much-needed rest, and maybe do a bit of studying. But when I woke up that morning, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The house was too quiet, and the loneliness was suffocating. I tried to distract myself by cleaning, hoping that keeping busy would help keep my mind off Emily. But as I dusted the shelves, I found more and more reminders of her. A photo of us at a friend's wedding, smiling and looking so happy. A small trinket she had bought for me during one of our trips. Each item felt like a punch to the gut, and before I knew it, I was sitting on the floor, surrounded by memories of a relationship that had been nothing but a lie. That's when I lost it. I started crying, big, ugly sobs that shook my entire body. I cried for the love I had lost, for the trust that had been broken, and for the future that had been stolen from me. The crying turned into hysterical laughter, and then into screaming. I punched the wall, not caring about the pain. I just needed to feel something other than the overwhelming sadness. In my fit of rage, I ended up injuring myself. I punched the wall so hard that I fractured a bone in my hand. The pain was excruciating, but in a way, it was a relief. It was something tangible, something I could focus on instead of the emotional agony I was going through. I wrapped my hand in a makeshift bandage and drove myself to the emergency room. The irony of being a medical student seeking medical help for a self-inflicted injury was not lost on me. The doctors patched me up and gave me a stern lecture about taking care of myself. But their words felt distant, like they were speaking to someone else. When I got home, I found a message from Emily on my phone. She had heard about my injury through a mutual friend and was worried about me. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Talking to her was the last thing I needed. But Emily didn't give up. She started showing up at my mom's house, begging to talk to me. Each time I told her to leave. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her excuses or apologies. But she was persistent. She would stand outside, crying and pleading until my mom or I finally relented and let her in. One evening, about a week after my injury, Emily showed up again. This time, she was more hysterical than usual. She claimed she couldn't live without me, that she was going to hurt herself if I didn't take her back. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to shut the door in her face and never see her again, but another part of me felt responsible. Despite everything, I still cared about her. I let her in and tried to calm her down. She was a mess, crying uncontrollably and saying she didn't know how to go on without me. I felt torn. On one hand, I was still angry and hurt by her betrayal. On the other hand, I didn't want her to hurt herself. That night, I stayed up with her, talking and trying to reassure her that she would be okay. It was emotionally exhausting, but I couldn't bring myself to leave her alone. I felt trapped, unable to fully move on while she was still so present in my life. The next morning, I told her she needed to get help. Professional help. She agreed reluctantly, and I helped her find a therapist. But even as she started therapy, she kept trying to insert herself back into my life. She would call or text, wanting to talk about her progress, wanting to see me. It was too much. I needed space to heal, but she kept pulling me back into her drama. A few weeks later, I found out from a mutual friend that Emily had started seeing someone new. It felt like a slap in the face. After all her declarations of love and her threats to harm herself if I didn't take her back, she had moved on to someone else. It was another betrayal, another reminder that she was not the person I thought she was. I confronted her about it, more out of a need for closure than anything else. She tried to downplay it, saying it was just a distraction, that it didn't mean anything. But I didn't believe her. I couldn't. Her actions spoke louder than her words. I finally reached a breaking point. I told her in no uncertain terms that she needed to stay out of my life. I couldn't keep playing this game with her. I needed to focus on myself, on my healing, on my future. She cried and begged, but I stood firm. I blocked her number, unfriended her on social media, and asked our mutual friends to respect my need for distance. The next few months were a roller coaster of emotions. I was still dealing with the pain of the breakup, but I was also starting to find myself again. I threw myself into my studies, using them as a way to distract myself from the pain. I spent more time with my friends, rediscovering the joy of simple things like movie nights and game nights. I also continued therapy, which helped immensely. My therapist helped me work through my feelings of betrayal and anger, and also helped me understand why I had stayed with Emily for so long despite the red flags. I realized that I had been so focused on the idea of our future together that I had ignored the problems in our present. One of the biggest breakthroughs came during a therapy session where we talked about self-worth. My therapist pointed out that I had been sacrificing my own happiness and well-being to try to make the relationship work. I had been so focused on supporting Emily and trying to meet her needs that I had neglected my own. That realization was a turning point for me. I started to focus more on what I needed, what made me happy. I set boundaries and learned to say no. It was a difficult process, but it was also incredibly empowering. I began to see that I deserved better, that I deserved to be with someone who loved and respected me. As the months went by, I started to feel more like myself again. I reconnected with hobbies and interests that I had neglected during my relationship with Emily. I started running again, something I had always loved, but had put on the back burner. I joined a local running club and made new friends. I also started cooking more, experimenting with new recipes and finding joy in the simple act of creating something delicious. One of the biggest changes came when I decided to move out of my mom's house. I found a small apartment close to campus and moved in with a couple of friends from medical school. It was a fresh start, a new beginning. The apartment was small, but it felt like home. It was a place where I could truly be myself, without the constant reminders of Emily. Living with my friends was a breath of fresh air. We supported each other through the stresses of medical school, and we also had a lot of fun together. We would stay up late studying, then unwind with movies or board games. It was a healthy, positive environment, and it helped me continue to heal. I also started dating again, cautiously at first. It was nerve-wracking, putting myself out there after everything that had happened. But I knew I couldn't let Emily's betrayal define my future. I met a few people, went on a few dates, and slowly started to open my heart again. One of those dates turned into something more. Her name was Sarah, and she was also a medical student. We met through a mutual friend, and there was an immediate connection. She was kind, funny, and understanding. She knew about my past and the pain I had been through. And she was patient with me as I navigated my way back into the world of dating. Sarah and I took things slow. We spent a lot of time talking, getting to know each other, and building a strong foundation of trust and respect. It was a stark contrast to my relationship with Emily. With Sarah, I felt valued and respected. I didn't have to constantly worry about betrayal or deceit. As my relationship with Sarah grew, so did my sense of self-worth. I realized that I was capable of loving and being loved again. I started to see a future that wasn't clouded by the pain of the past. I was moving forward step by step, and it felt incredible. The journey wasn't without its challenges. There were still days when the pain of Emily's betrayal would hit me out of nowhere, but those days became fewer and farther between. I had built a support system of friends, family, and a loving partner who helped me through the tough times. One of the biggest milestones came when I passed my board exams. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. All the hard work, the late nights, the stress VDJ, it had all paid off. I was one step closer to becoming a doctor, to fulfilling the dream I had worked so hard for. As I celebrated with my friends and family, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come. The pain of Emily's betrayal had been overwhelming, but it hadn't broken me. It had made me stronger, more resilient. I had learned to value myself, to set boundaries, and to surround myself with people who truly cared about me. Looking back, I can see that Emily's betrayal, as painful as it was a catalyst for growth and change. It forced me to confront my own insecurities and to learn to love myself. It showed me the importance of trust, respect, and mutual support in a relationship. I'm still on my journey, still healing and growing, but I know that I'm on the right path. I've learned to let go of the past and to look forward to the future with hope and optimism. I've discovered a strength within myself that I didn't know I had, and most importantly, I've learned that I deserve to be happy. This is my story, Reddit. It's been a long and painful journey, but one that has ultimately led to healing and growth. If you're going through something similar, know that you are not alone. It gets better. Keep moving forward, keep believing in yourself, and never forget your worth. The pain will fade, and you will find happiness again.